Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. We want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, we get to speak with the fabulous Lila Smith. She started a brand new way of thinking and messaging platform called Say Something Better. The last time I spoke with Lila was over a year ago, and we were both in totally different places, and everything that we're talking about now is all just a figment of our imagination. And now, we've taken the time and made it a reality. I didn't even know if I was going to start a podcast and I was going to have guests on it. And now I'm, a year later, that's exactly what I'm loving doing this, because I'm learning so much from my guests, and my audience is, a great feedback outlet. So Lila, thank you so much for taking the time and jumping on this podcast episode.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's Say Things Better. So,
Say Things Better.
yeah.
There you go.
So Say Things Better is something that came out like right after you and I last talked about a year ago in April. We were talking about just life at the time, which for me was working at this company and just seeing that the most success I was having in my role that I had was thanks to this experience I had in theater, and how many communication skills it taught me, and how it wasn't something that gave me the ability to say things perfectly, just to say things better because I had intention behind them. And you had your own like user experience, life, and now you're talking about the experience of so many different people. You're still diving into how other
Yeah.
people experience the world. So I still see your dots connected. It doesn't surprise me that you're doing this. I think it's cool.
It is. It is really cool. And the one thing that I didn't know, in the longest, like I've been connecting with people just as a way to just connect
Yeah.
on LinkedIn for the past 15 years, right? And I was like, okay, it's good to have connections, but like somehow I just didn't know, okay, there's more to just connecting. There's these conversations that we have with each other, because in the back of our minds, you meet somebody and like, oh, they have these really awesome experiences. I could totally learn from that. Or there's some collaborations, and now we're seeing that, that's the way the world has grown to where it is. Like collaborations are the milestones, the stepping stones to bigger and better things.
Yeah, for
And
everyone.
yeah, for everyone. And like that's something that didn't trigger in my head for the past couple of years. It
Wow.
triggered the past couple of years. And I think that's mainly because as you grow older, your mind becomes in a different state, or maybe it's the books that I've been reading that's triggered this stuff, or maybe it's always been there in one form or another. I just didn't have those firing mechanism connecting those two dots together,
Yeah,
because
you were probably connecting some other dots.
Mhm. So it probably all comes around to having acquired a knowledge or an experience in one area, and then when you start building experience in a different area, and then you start seeing those parallels. Like I see parallels in everything now. It's
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
that's pretty cool.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
About collaboration as a value or something to have as a goal. I think when you
Mhm.
have a specific message in mind, it becomes much easier to feel the need for collaboration as a
Exactly.
specific thing. I need people to get behind this message. And I feel that about Say Things Better. Before, I felt that way just about community. And not the community is no small thing. I love it.
Mhm.
I need it. I needed to feel brave. I needed to
Yeah.
feel supported and not alone, that I have a place in the world.
Hmm.
But I didn't have any specific projects that I needed collaborators for until I felt that I had something to say.
Yeah.
And when you feel you have a platform, when you feel you have found the message that you have to get out to as many people as possible, you have probably more of a natural instinct than ever before to reach out and look for help and look for people to come in and help you do that.
That's so true. Um, that's really good point because, and I can relate to that in a perspective from when I got into cycling. I was just doing what I knew, and I've been talking to other cyclists, and then a couple years ago, finally connected, and I think my wife's friend was like, "Hey, my husband's into biking.
Mhm.
Is your husband also into biking?" And then we got connected, and then we were like, "Oh, they have a whole bike team here going on." And then just going into that tribe and listening to them, you know, expanded my mind into what I should be looking at.
Oh,
And
that word tribe is really powerful.
mm-hmm,
The collective wisdom is sometimes easier to hear than the wisdom in our heads. Like, you probably knew about stuff you could have been focusing on, but to hear a
yeah,
whole group of people reinforcing it, that's really powerful.
yeah, absolutely. So tell us your journey and story. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about, having experience in theater and having experience in marketing and communications. Like, how does all that came together? Like, what was the path you took, or what was the journey like?
Gosh, if I had known it was a path, I would have done it the same way. I just kind of wandered around feeling lost for a really long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Lost but happy. I was a happy
Mhm.
person. And Kristen Sherry will tell you that this is because I have positivity as one of my top 5 strengths. So I
Nice.
naturally have this positive outlook. I like to see the glass half full. I like to see
Mhm.
where there are blessings. I like doing that stuff. It's natural to me. So I didn't
Mhm.
realize how unsettled I was in one place or another. And I didn't know that there was another option. It didn't
Yeah.
even occur to me that I could take the different pieces of my life and smush them together to make something powerful. I had
Mhm.
no idea. But
Yeah.
the path that was laid out for me, and I believe everything happens for a reason, and the opportunities that are in our life are put there, whether it's by God or by chance that everybody in the universe is conspiring to see me succeed. It
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
I spent 10 years in theater professionally, and really, I've been in theater my whole life. I came out a performer. And
Mhm.
so my parents had no choice but to put me in theater camp and send me
Mhm.
to a theater high school and theater college. And then I did perform professionally for about 10 years before
Nice.
I retired from the industry. And I also, actors have to have a day job just
Mhm.
to support the lifestyle and every expense that goes into being a successful actor. It's really such a money pit. Same as being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, same as being, uh, so I guess in that way, it prepared me for that part of it too.
Yeah.
And same as being a musician, an artist, any
Mhm.
kind of pursuit that takes a lot of your own personal capital. So actors have these extra day jobs, and a
Mhm.
lot of people are waiters or bartenders because they
Mhm.
have flexible schedules, or they're different hours that you can work around your auditions. And
Yeah.
for me, I kind of had this regular career as my day job. And I just had found a way to do remote work and to work for people who had flexibility with me. I had gone from retail to retail wholesale to customer service and the brand element of customer service communications, on site
Mhm.
events, training other people, managing departments, and then moving into e commerce and managing departments there.
Wow.
So I had this just regular, I say regular career. It wasn't regular. It was it was pretty
A
interesting. I mean,
professional
the
career.
story, yeah, like that story of my other professional life is something that I don't even know is on any other podcast, but
Mhm.
it is interesting. It's an interesting story if we want to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's what this is about.
Okay, well then I think this is going to be the only place where this lives because I just never talk
Yeah.
about this anymore. It's
Mhm.
just it's part of the past, but it's part of my present too.
Yeah.
So there was this one summer doing dinner theater for a professional theater company in Oneonta, New York, and I was there for college, and I stayed over the summer to do this work with this theater company. And so I was in a bunch of different plays and musicals over the summer. I was a singing waitress. And during this summer, I had this extra cash and it was like the first time that I felt, great abundance in my wallet because people were tipping the singing waiters and I was
Yeah.
getting a check for being in the show. And I just had this, this money and low expenses for living in this small town. And a little lingerie store opened up
Uh-huh.
called Private Drawers, and it was owned by this woman, MD Poole, who I don't know if she's really of this world. She might
Uh-huh.
be some kind of magical fairy who was sent down from heaven to connect me to my greater, higher achieving self.
Mm.
Because I walked in through the doors of this store, and first of all, it smelled gorgeous. There was Eva Cassidy music playing and French music playing coming out of the open doors on a summer day in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Just the most beautiful, magical experience. And there's this woman, this like light as a feather woman with a big smile on her face and smiles in her eyes. And she welcomes me in and she says, "Hello, would you like to see something special?" And I said, yes, I would like to see something special. That sounds great. And I walked in this store, Private Drawers, was all of these pieces of antique furniture that were stocked full of lingerie, new stuff, and also some beautiful vintage pieces like silk bias cut nightgowns from the 30s, and just the most exquisite things coming out of the
Mhm.
most exquisite things, and led by this exquisite person. And I fell in love in that moment. I had
Mhm.
had the Victoria's Secret catalogs and things like that that young girls are interested in, like, oh, that would be cute, but this was
Yeah.
something else. This was another level. This was stuff that was really special. When she invited me into that store for something special, that's exactly what I got. It was this
Mm.
transformative experience. And it kickstarted this love affair that I have with just the transformative power of lingerie and dressing from the inside out, communicating
Mhm.
to myself first before I got dressed in the morning, no matter who's going to see it or not. This is for
Yeah.
me. That foundationally, before I put anything else on my body, there's fragrance and there is silk and there are materials that are handmade, and that this part of my being a powerful woman was
Yeah.
something I had access to through this handicraft, through this tradition of dressing from the inside out. So, and I
Mm.
still do it. I still wear like the most beautiful things that I can find that, come in the right sizes, that fit, that feel good.
Mhm.
And that was the beginning of this career. I wouldn't leave this door. I said, I'm going to have to be here every day. I spent as much money as I had, and I was like, you're never getting rid of me now. And she said, "Well, would you like to work here?" And I said, yes, yes, I would like to work. I would like to live here. and and I did move into an apartment that was two doors down from the store, and I worked there for the rest of my college experience. And when I left, I had graduated and moved back down to New York City. It
Mhm.
was leaving the town, leaving the people that I knew there, the relationships I had made in local theater. It was so much more emotional of an experience for me leaving that community than
Yeah.
actually graduating college and having this degree. It just was something that I felt very powerfully moved by the Orpheus Theater community, working with the Bays family, Sammy Dallas Bays and Barbara Bays and Katrina Schuler and Claudia Keppel. Like, there are so many people from that town who
Yeah.
I don't even know if they know what kind of an impact they had on me while I was there. But I know that MD Poole knows. I'm still in touch with her,
Mm.
and she's living in France now, and I've got to go visit her at some point. But that started it. And then when I moved to New York City, I got another job at a lingerie store called La Petite Coquette, and I was
Mhm.
like the top in sales of these retail things, and we didn't make commission. So it was never like I was trying to make the biggest sales. What
Yeah.
was different about the way I was selling was I wanted to give people what MD Pool was giving them at Private Drawers. I wanted to
Mm.
give them this transformative experience. And so I listened. What are the needs that you've come to me with? What do you have that I can help with? What
Yeah.
is that for you? Do you have presentations that you have to do? And maybe some shapewear would make you feel more confident. Do you
Mm.
have like a hot date later and you need something to feel like, even if he or she isn't going to see it, that you
Mhm.
know what you've got going on underneath, and you bring that part of yourself to the table. So
Yeah.
I would listen to what people's things were that they had going on, and I would find them the most empowering, beautiful things that I could find them. And because I was giving them things for their needs, and that included like running to the sales section and
Mhm.
getting an armload of things that said, okay, you've got $200. Here are 10 things that you can have. You don't have to leave with just one thing. And it was an expensive store. So one bra could be $200. But this was my favorite thing to do, was find stuff that was on sale or find things that were a good deal. And then people felt like, oh, I can leave with 15 things and 5 of them would be full price. The rest of them wouldn't be. And those people were my diehards and would come back to work with me again and again because they knew that I really cared about them, their needs, their budget, and gave them this special experience.
Yeah.
And I'm still very much doing that, providing the same kind of listening to what somebody's needs are, giving them
Mhm.
that special experience, and calling out what of their needs or what of their benefit might help
Yeah.
their customers' needs. It's just doing the same thing, and I didn't see it, and I never.
Yeah.
I talk about the theater element of it, but so much of what we learn as kids in retail it
Yeah.
really carries a lot of weight if we listen to what those lessons are. So
Yeah.
from there, I went to work at Rebecca and Drew Manufacturing, which was
Mhm.
a little store. And, I moved around a couple of times. I went back to La Petite Coquette several times, but I would keep leaving to go and do shows. And I would go
Yeah.
on tour and I would be gone for 6 months. And I would then come back. Hey, do you have any work for me? And Rebecca Apson, the owner of the store, did have work for me sometimes. And then eventually she didn't anymore. They had more fully staffed. So I
Yeah.
found another job at this store called Rebecca and Drew Manufacturing in the West Village of New York City. And this was a little store, hot pink, with a bunch of shirts inside. And the shirts were fit by bra size. And I was
Mm.
trained as an expert bra fitter, and I can still do this. This is like a handy little trick that
Mhm.
definitely does not exist in any other podcast of me talking about, which is that I can look at a woman and tell you what her bra size is. And
Wow.
a lot of my guy friends and some of my women friends too would really love this skill. But I'm telling you, it is so useless at parties because you can't bring it up. I mean, I do
Yeah.
anyway. It doesn't take a lot of women long to learn that I can do this.
Mhm.
But so I took my bra fitting skill into this shirt store where the shirts were fit by bra size,
Mhm.
which eliminated that little gap between the buttons that women hate so much. And
Mhm.
they were sizing these shirts using Trio Fit technology. And I loved so much these shirts and the fit, and I became, an evangelist of this company, and I kept talking about it everywhere. And I was only
Mhm.
part-time. I was there 2 days, sometimes 3 days a week, while,
Yeah.
I was also auditioning and performing and
Mhm.
working in New York City as an actress. And then I started doing some stuff kind of on the side for them. I suggested, I know some people from when I was in the lingerie industry, reps who would come in, other lingerie stores knew about the store that I had worked at. So anytime I was somewhere else in the country, I would mention it and form these relationships with the owners of lingerie stores. So I mentioned it
Nice.
to Rebecca Matchett and Andrew Puluba, who were the owners of Rebecca and Drew Manufacturing and Trio Fit Technology. And I said, these shirts would be a great fit, so to speak, at these lingerie stores where the women who work there are trained like I was to know someone's size and to help
Yeah.
them find the right fit and to be involved in a shirt fitting experience that's really a lot more intimate than women are used to when they're shopping for regular clothes.
Yeah.
So I started a trunk show initiative for them. And I would reach out to these lingerie stores. Hey, it's Lila from New York, from La Petite Coquette. I started this, I think the first one I planned was on Cape Cod at Bedroom Eyes Boutique,
Mhm.
which was owned by this woman, Amy, at the time. And I had gone into that store while I was hanging out with some of my theater friends on Cape Cod. And so she was like, "Hey, what are you up to?" I said, "I got these shirts." And she said, "Bring them on up." So I brought the trial line of shirts. And this was like giving the retail experience out of a box. I don't know if
Yeah.
everybody listening knows what a trunk show is, but you take
Mhm.
a selection of things that people can buy to a store that doesn't have that inventory yet or doesn't carry it yet. So it's a kind of a
Mhm.
special experience. And
Yeah.
they show up and you give them some stuff to look through and you give them a fitting experience. So I would travel with these sets of try-on shirts and swatch books so people could pick out their fabrics like men have done for so long.
You're
Do
you're
you have
like a
any custom
little
shirts?
traveling salesperson.
Yes, exactly. I was like a little traveling salesperson with a box full of navy blue try-on shirts for women that had their bra size stitched on the cuff. I mean, they didn't, when we made the shirts, they didn't have the size on the cuff, but
Yeah.
that's what they were. So I would take orders. People would want 5 different shirts and 5 different materials. So it was a
Mhm.
successful little program. And what it showed was that there was a want and a need for trio fit technology, in women's garments that extended
Yeah.
past this little store, past our own e-commerce site. And that really around the country, there were women who were craving a better fit.
Mhm.
So it paved the way for some other initiatives that the company wanted to do. And when they moved from the store to a showroom by appointment only model, I was the only one of the sales staff that they took with them.
Mhm.
And because I had started these trunk shows with them, got a promotion and became the national sales coordinator. So I was doing all of this stuff then. From having been the girl who was in musical theater and in retail, I now was
Yeah.
national sales coordinator for Rebecca and Drew Manufacturing. And I kept planning these trunk shows and planning events. And then Rebecca and Drew, which had been a proof of concept luxury level brand for Trio Fit, closed. And
Mhm.
they kept me on. They said, well, there's something for you. And it's not, we're not going to keep doing this line of shirts, but Trio Fit Technology was partnering with InStyle magazine
Oh,
to
wow.
make InStyle's first ever clothing line called InStyle Essentials, which was to
Nice.
be a line of button front shirts fit by bra size. So
Mhm.
these like perfect white shirts were always on the InStyle list of all the things women have to have. They give you like the
Mhm.
top 10 gotta have it fashion things. And the
Yeah.
perfect white shirt was always one of them. So it was, again, so to speak, but naturally a fit. And I was in charge of taking everything I knew about the Trio Fit brand voice, the science, the technology, everything that I had learned about the customer experience, giving
Yeah.
this luxury level customer experience, but making it accessible and having it carry a voice that was really very much like my own.
Yeah.
Very, this is for you too, very
Mhm.
egalitarian. This is in style, this isn't Vogue. This is to include, this isn't to distance,
Ex
exclude.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it wasn't
Excellent.
exclusive, it was inclusive. Exactly. So we had this line of shirts that I then launched this mobile fit tour of with them. And we worked
Mhm.
with people in marketing and events. And I worked with Andrew Therian at Big Orange Productions, who I knew of because my
Yeah.
actor friends had day job work working for his company, being brand ambassadors. The people on the street who like will hand you a granola bar and say, try this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Try
So,
this.
yeah, exactly. Or in a store where they do sampling. So, Big
Yeah.
Orange Productions hires and casts actors to do that kind of work. You submit your
Ah.
headshot and you tell them about yourself, and they pick the people that they think best represent the brands that they are hired to do these events for. So I knew
Yeah.
about them because
Mhm.
my actor friends worked for them and I knew how well they operated. So I
Yeah.
brought them in as a partner. And I said, they have the best brand ambassadors. And I know that because they're hiring actors. So if they're hiring my friends, they must be hiring the best. And it's true.
Yes,
So I worked
absolutely.
with them to do the mobile fit tour of InStyle Essentials. And we were at different cities all over the country in this big rock star bus that had a, wrap around it that made it look like a giant woman with a shirt on that was gaping and then a shirt that was fitting. And we retrofit the inside with fitting rooms and shelves. And
Mm-hmm.
we hired the Big Orange Productions brand ambassadors because every different city that we would go to, we
Mm-hmm.
needed people who could be on brand for InStyle Essentials featuring TrioFit technology. And we
Yeah.
needed them all to have the same voice. We needed them all to have the same skills. And
Mm-hmm.
we needed them to be somebody that we could go into any different city and instantly scale our staffing without bringing people on full time, because this was for events. So they were
Yeah.
perfect. And it was my job to create the brand voice training manuals and how to fit the shirts. I did these remote fit training sessions. We did FaceTime. I don't think there was Zoom communications at the time. So we
Mhm.
used FaceTime.
Yeah.
And we also did in-person trainings for like 15 minutes in the morning. But it was really these phone calls that I did and the documentation that I created for
Yeah.
InStyle Essentials that taught the people at Big Orange, this is what we will need. This is what you need to do. This is what to get ready for. And I did
Yeah.
fittings for them remotely too. I would look at the girls over the camera and I'd say, she's probably 34C, she's probably 32D, get that one a 36G. And so,
That's nice.
they would send me their measurements and I worked with them on scaling the fit. And that was the last job that I had that was like a lot of person to person, face
Mhm.
to face training and serving in a retail capacity. And there was all the customer service for online as well for
Yeah.
the online customer experience. So
Mhm.
website reviews, and I did the messages with customers and fit
Mhm.
consultations. And I led all of this stuff and trained the other people in our showroom to work with us too. And then
That's
after
amazing.
that, like that didn't, it was amazing. It was really cool. And it was a lot of fun. And I just like thinking about having come from a girl who sold underwear to pay
Mhm.
the bills while she was auditioning to play a matzo ball at St. Luke's Theater.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a thing I did. And so
Yeah.
having come through this kind of traditional career path and learned on the job, and that was my day job. I wasn't waiting tables. I was learning this stuff and
Yeah.
all of the brand communications and all the emails. Like I handled all of that stuff with them and all of the customer experience.
Yeah.
So then when that company, it didn't work out, InStyle Magazine and Trio Fit decided to dissolve the partnership
Oh, interesting.
like it was, I think it just was not what InStyle had expected. And I don't think they needed it. They're already a big
Well,
major conglomerate.
if you think about it, right? So, and the one thing that I kept thinking about when you were talking about traffic technology and because it's a very niche, right? It's a very
Oh
niche tech,
yeah.
and InStyle being a magazine, they thought that this niche is something that they could it could take them to the next level, but they're a much broader magazine. Like they're
Yeah,
not, this is not the only thing that they're focused on. So
it
that's
wasn't,
probably
right.
they're like,
And they
yeah, so
had
there's like,
an agreement, they were to be the media partner
yeah.
for the clothing line, and the partnership was like a licensing agreement. So it just didn't work out for them to be the media partner for InStyle Essentials, the company, anymore.
Mhm.
And still, though, we had the InStyle name on all the clothes. So like, good luck getting coverage in other magazines, it was a challenge for sure, but it was a great experience. And everybody who has those shirts cherishes them. I've had people reach out to
Mhm.
me about Trio Fit technology long
Yeah.
after those shirts stopped becoming available. I know
Mhm.
that they're like frequently searched on eBay and Googled. So I would love to know like what they're doing with them, because Trio
Yeah.
Fit technology is the only way that I know of that I've ever been able to find button front shirts that fit. And I
Hmm.
would happily champion them. And that's the other thing, is that I've always done these jobs that I would happily champion, that I could stand behind and say, here are the things that are so powerful about what this brand does. And being a natural brand ambassador of the companies I've
Hmm.
worked for has made me successful. So knowing that I can do that, I wouldn't want to stay at a company that didn't have something I could be proud about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then when that company closed, I went to DNA Footwear, and that was the last job that I had. I came in
Hmm.
as customer service manager and left after 3 something years, where
Hmm.
I had been the director of e-commerce and communications for that company. So I see the ladder. If I go back, I
Yeah.
see the ladder. Would I have
Yeah.
say that I had planned it or that anybody had shown me the way? Not at all.
No.
But that was that part of my corporate career, was like in that way. And I had been doing marketing consulting on the side for companies like
Hmm.
Speltrite, just a bunch of like smaller companies,
Hmm.
because I needed it. Because, again, like acting was a money pit. And
Yeah,
then I had
it is.
a wedding to pay for. I had like all kinds of things in my life that were expensive.
Hmm.
Living in New York is expensive. And
Yeah.
so I did everything that I could to use what I had and
Hmm.
help other people and make money. So I guess my hobbies were really just working to support my other work. And it just was stuff that I kind of liked, but none of it really used all of what I have until
Yeah,
now.
until now.
Yeah.
And that's what I see, the powerful, you see the journey and look at all the things that you've learned through that and how you can now combine it. Like, this is who I mean, because a lot of time people say, "Oh, I regretted doing that." But that's the thing, right? You shouldn't be regretting, because if you hadn't taken that step, you wouldn't have gotten up the ladder or up the steps,
Yeah.
because you still have to go through different parts of a staircase. There's the steep staircase, or there's a flattening staircase, but again, it'll all take you to a point where you are now today.
Yeah. And I could never have planned it for myself. I think
No.
people look at their own lives and they see a lot of scattered stuff, right? So there's
Mhm.
there's another way to tell this story. I mean, I
Yeah.
see the chronological trajectory and how each thing led to the next and how that led
Mhm.
to what I'm doing now. But the
Yeah.
other way to tell this story is, I don't know, I've worked all over the place. I've done retail, I've done wholesale, I've done
Mhm.
shop and shop agreements, I've done marketing. And so people listing the bullet points without telling the story,
Yeah.
they're not acknowledging the story for themselves. We
Exactly.
all have one life and
Mhm.
lots of different pieces of experience that might
Mhm.
seem disparate. They might seem like they're all over the place,
Yeah.
but we each are the through line in our story. I'm the
Exactly.
same person who sold lingerie the way that only I could. I'm the same
Mhm.
person who trained 100 different brand ambassadors in different cities to represent
Yeah.
a brand like only I could. And I'm the
Mhm.
person who stood up on stage and ran around with a bunch of little kids playing orphans and Oliver playing Nancy, their friend and the leading lady in that play, in that musical,
Yeah.
like only I could. And I
Mhm.
played a matzo ball too, like only I could. And that's the thing, is that extra bit, the like only I could,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that we need to be talking about when we do our own
Exactly.
messaging. The whatever that
Absolutely.
is that makes the like only I could. I do
Mhm.
messaging for people like only I can, because I bring all
Yeah.
of this experience behind me.
Exactly. And that's why I like to listen to these journeys, these stories, because there's so much power in those stories that opens up your mind like none other. It's like reading a book that's specifically designed for you.
Yeah, a living book.
Yes, a living book. And you can go back and ask questions, and and having it on a podcast is like, okay, I can go back to it and listen. Oh, I can take notes. This is how you communicate. This is how you like plan a branding session or whatever. I mean, there's so
Hmm.
many things to pull out of it, and I'm super excited for what you're doing with Say Things Better and helping others find their voice.
Oh,
Because that's the
thank you.
trouble, right? When we live
Yeah,
inside our minds, unless you put it down on paper, what's inside your mind, you can't see it.
you're right.
And that's why people use coaches, because people like coaches can see exactly what you're talking about. They can see from the outside and they can then analyze it.
Oh yeah. I mentioned
But you can't
Kristen
analyze your
Sherry. She
internals.
did.
Yes.
She did
Mm-hmm.
see it on paper. I mean, I did some assessments. I did the 4 assessments that we do as part of UMAP to
Mm-hmm.
identify my 4 pillars of career satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I had said to her, I'm happy, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, okay. I said, I'm fulfilled, but I'm kind of not fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I tried to explain, I feel like at any given time, no matter what I'm doing or whatever I've done, like there's more for me. Like
Yeah.
there's more that I'm not doing. There's more power to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel, if I have to put a number on it, I feel only about 50% fulfilled
Yeah.
ever, when I'm doing theater work, when I'm directing, when I'm acting, when I'm selling, when I'm marketing, when I'm doing a user experience review of a
Mm-hmm.
website, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing, when I'm learning things about e-commerce and the back end of a website and operations, when I'm managing a team. Um,
Yeah.
I love all of these things for their own thing, but
Mm-hmm.
anytime I do any of these things, I miss an element of the other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, "Why don't
Absolutely.
you try communication coaching and consulting?" I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that's really cute, Kristen, but I need a job, you know? It just is so silly to look back now and think about that I didn't see any way that it could be a job. And that was where I was last time you and I talked, was I had this awareness. I knew what my superpowers were.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I think it was January of last year I started, and December the year before, in January, I started testing some of the things that I knew from theater in a business environment and saying, okay, if I get purposeful and intentional about doing this in business, what does that look like? What are the actual steps? And I had this
Yeah.
book called I Am by Amy
Mm-hmm.
Blatchka and Bruce Kasanoff.
Mm-hmm.
And it had all these first person affirmative statements. I am whatever. I am brave. I am curious. I am distracted. I am whatever the thing is. And these poems or writings afterwards that the two of them had collaborated on. And then there would be all this white space. And I
Yeah.
used these books to just it was one book, but I had multiple copies because I kept filling them up. And I used them kind of as journals to explore my own mind. And I worked out the 5 steps of the Say Things Better method of intentional communication in the
Yeah.
pages of those books, like right there. And I would
That's really
talk to
cool.
people from our LinkedIn network, people you probably know too.
Mm-hmm.
Shua Thompson and Michael Spence and Fiona Young. Fiona Young and I spoke very, very close to, it might have been New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all the way in Hong Kong. And I was
Wow.
asking her, what are the verbs? Like, do you know about my verbs and verb your values as part of Say Things Better? So Fiona and I had gotten on a call, and Michael Spence also, and Shua Thompson, and just some other people. I had a bunch of people that I was like, hey, we've been engaging for a while. Let me test something out on you, would you? And they let me kind of play around. In theater, actors come to the stage with an objective for their character. My character wants to achieve this thing in this scene, and my scene partner, the other person in the scene, is who I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get it from. Even if the
Yeah.
script says that they don't get it, your character
Yeah.
doesn't know that at the beginning of the scene. They go after their
Mhm.
objective. And it's your job as the actor to relentlessly pursue that objective until they get it. One
Yeah.
of the ways that we do this for some actors who've been trained in the Stella Adler technique of actions and tactics, we say, okay, here's a line. Maybe the line is, that will be sufficient. So I try
Mhm.
to do something with this line to get my objective. And the thing I do is direct my communication. So if I'm saying to you, that will be sufficient, And I think that the way I get you to say yes to whatever my objective is for the scene
Mhm.
is to flirt, then that will be the verb, to flirt.
Mhm.
If it's to intimidate, that will be the verb. If it's to dismiss, that will be the verb. And I don't say these things out loud. I just put them in my head before I
Mhm.
say the line. So if I wanted
Interesting.
to comfort, that will be sufficient. And if I wanted to
Um,
dismiss, that will be sufficient.
oh my God.
It's the same line. And
It's
the
the same
verb in
line.
my head sounds different. So you do it. So do that will be
Intonation.
sufficient. And I'll give you a verb, to excite.
Mhm. That
So
will be
excite.
sufficient.
Exactly. Right. We're like, great, we've got enough. Whatever it is that Janae is saying, we've got. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say intentional communication. It almost
Mhm.
doesn't matter what the words are for this part
Yeah.
of it. It's just the
Mhm.
way you're going to make someone feel with your communication.
Wow.
So being
That's
intentional about those things.
oh my God, that's super powerful.
Thanks. Yeah, it is. It's so simple, isn't it? Because we're just
It is.
deciding what we want to do to another
Yeah.
person, but we're
Yeah,
making that
exactly.
decision first so that we don't accidentally have a different effect on them.
No, that's so true because so okay, let me tell you something that I've been working on, and
Yes, please.
maybe I'm failing. So I did the 30 days of videos, and I only ended up getting to 12, where I was talking about you know, mobile video production using your smartphone and all the different techniques that you can use. So I'm making that into a course. I wrote a
Cool.
chapter on it that's going to go in a book, um, a co-authored book. So I'm done with the chapter, but now I've got to record these videos. And when you mentioned the, you know, say something better or say things better, intentional speaking, and when I said what you told me to say with the intention of excitement or whatever,
To excite. Yeah.
to excite, right?
Hmm.
It will be sufficient, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm talking on the video, I felt that I'm very monotonous, even though I try to bring, you know, some
Hmm.
intonation and
Oh, yeah. Well, you were thinking about
right.
outside in, right? Thinking about
Yes.
the effect of, well, if I make my voice go higher here and then lower
Yeah.
here, it will sound
Yeah.
more interesting.
Yeah.
But it sounds weird when we do
It
that.
does.
And it sounds, our voices, and I talk about this a lot. This is why the naturalistic style of acting, this humanist movement of saying we want actors to bring their real experiences, their real feelings, the things that
Mhm.
are authentic to them to the table.
Yeah.
And it's the same that we're looking for in brand communications now. We want what's actually inside of you because that is what we will connect with. We don't
That's so
connect with
true.
the tools and tricks and tips. We have all of these people out there who are body language consultants and teachers, and it's helpful
Mhm.
to have somebody say, okay, uncross your arms. Okay, plant
Yeah.
your feet. We do
Yeah.
need people to tell us those things because we get into these nasty habits when we're speaking. But if you want to have an impact on someone, if you want to have an
Yeah.
influence in that moment, you have to be intentional this way about your communication because it's so simple. You don't have to remember my voice this, my voice that, my body this, my
No.
body that. You only have to remember to excite.
Yeah. You just need to your mind is automatically prepped.
Yeah,
Like
because
you're
you've lived your whole
pre-prepping it.
life already knowing what that means.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God.
So I do
So
work a
helpful.
lot with people who do a lot of technical communication, medical communications, legal communications, financial communication, things that can come across as very dry. I
Yeah.
work with startups and I do pitch mentorship for them. I teach them how
Mhm.
to do better in speaking about their company, about their ideas. And this is one of the core elements using these
Yeah.
verbs. And I give people three. I say, I think you should have three verbs and that they
Mhm.
should be an expression of your values.
Yeah.
So mine are to affirm, to connect, and to empower. And again,
Mhm.
using those as a connection to my values because I don't have to try and remember them or try and fake it. This is the way that I feel best. Now, you might
Wow.
be to educate, to inform, to equip, that these kinds of things might feel more dry. But if you are
Yeah.
intentionally doing them, they won't, because it just
Mhm.
adds something. It adds intention, it adds energy. It calls
Yeah.
upon what you know you must do instead
Mm.
of letting it just be informative or have the material be what equips someone. If
Yeah.
your intention is to equip, I'm doing it right now. I'm giving you tools, I'm being organized about them, and you can
Yeah.
hear the way that my voice changes when I'm trying
Mhm.
to walk you through a program. So it happens automatically when you just
Yeah.
add the verb inside your head.
Mhm.
And this is some
No.
work that I do in my coaching with people who have a hard time with creative expression. And
Mhm.
I tell them, you don't need creative expression. You just need to be excited about something and talk about that.
No, that's super powerful. I love it. I love it. And when you like the other thing that you mentioned is, in acting, because you're and people like producers are looking for actors that bring their own self out.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why we've seen so many actors in the same role over the years. Is that one of the reasons?
The
Or
same role.
yeah,
So, like, give me
not
an
the same
example.
role,
I
but
know, I
similar.
think I know what you mean. Like when you
Okay.
see Paul Giamatti on the screen,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You
Done a
kind of
lot
know
of
what
different
you're going to
roles.
get.
Yeah.
He's playing a
Hmm.
lot of different parts. Each of them
Yeah.
is different. He's
Yeah.
calling on different elements of, and I've not discussed this with him,
Sure.
we're not like great friends or anything, although
No,
I'd be
no.
open to that. I think he
Of
lives
course.
in Brooklyn. But so
Yes.
he brings different elements of his experience to each character, but
Hmm.
he only has one set of experience to really
Yeah.
go for without
Mm.
imitating somebody else. He's
Yeah.
pulling upon Paul Giamatti's life, his
Yes.
experiences, his contexts for what words mean, his parallels for things that he can draw upon from his life that relate to what the character is going through. And so that's what he knows. Even with
Yeah.
doing research, he's only going to ever really know. And this goes into some
Mhm.
psychology that we all did in college, right?
Yeah.
The response repertoire that we develop
Hmm.
when we learn things from our own experience, and then we can call upon them for our response, or we do without
Yeah.
meaning to. That the things that we learn are from our experience of the world, and our walking through it is different than somebody else's.
Yeah.
Even
That's
identical twins have different experiences
Oh,
of the same
absolutely.
event.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really mind blowing.
No big deal. Yeah, people don't know. They
what's
don't have any idea how scholarly acting is and how much we all learn about the human condition, how deeply we
yeah.
dive into different people's stories, and how much more
Yeah.
we often understand about ourselves and about
Yeah.
audiences and about other people by purposefully putting ourselves in the position of what would I do if something similar were happening to me as is happening to
Yeah.
this character or other characters in the script. We are,
That's
kind of forcing that empathetic learning.
yeah. No, that's really great because so we're going way over, but just this is really powerful. What's really cool is so I'm into acting also. Like I've watched some videos and I'm like, okay, I want to go into acting, but I really because well, initially I was very shy. Like 10, 15 years ago, I couldn't even hear myself speak on the microphone.
Wow, and now you have a
Because
podcast.
I have a podcast and like I said, it takes that time and the experiences that you go through and then your mind growing and they say once you've crossed 40 you have some kind of wisdom now.
Do they say that?
I don't know, because the one thing that I do know from the Quran is that the Prophet Muhammad, he was not revealed the Quran till he was 40, because
Okay.
till you're 40 you're still a youth.
Well, then call me a kid too. I'm not 40. I got a ways to go.
You've got a ways to go, and
Yeah, but
that's why I
I've
wanted.
lived like 19,000 people's lives, within my
Yeah,
own, reading the
yeah,
stories and putting myself into the characters in every book that I
yeah,
ever read. When I say I was
yeah.
born a performer, I was born an actress. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing the voices that I thought I should do for the
Mm-hmm.
characters in kids' books. And I was thinking as I read Little Women with my dad, and I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
about Meg and Joe and, like what their stories were and what they were thinking that wasn't on the page. I've
Yeah.
done this my whole life, putting myself in somebody else's story and seeing what of my story I can connect to it with.
Yeah.
So I might not have lived 40 of my own years, but I've probably lived at least 900 of somebody's.
Very cool. Very cool. And so last year I turned 42, and 42, as you know, is the ultimate answer. Like,
From
I've got
Hitchhiker's
to
Guide to the
start something.
Galaxy.
Yes,
Is that
exactly.
a Hitchhiker's Guide reference?
Yes, it is. And I was like, I'm
On
turning
no other
42 this year
podcast.
on no other podcast.
Right.
And so I was like, I'm turning 42 this year. I've got to start this podcasting that I've been talking about. And I did. And I'm so happy that I did, because I've learned so much from so many people. I am like constantly growing my mind by connecting with many other people. And it's just so amazing. I love it.
Oh, I love it too. I love that you're doing it.
Thank you so
You
much.
talk to interesting people.
I just talked to Tom Malloy. I don't know if you've ever heard of him,
Mm-mm.
from Love Dancing. He starred against Amy Smart and what's her name? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blocking on this. But he basically wrote a book called Bankroll, and as a producer, how to raise money. He's raised like $25 million in
Oh,
making
cool.
movies and whatnot. So really powerful guy, really awesome guy. I got to meet him last week, and then I got to talk to him last week on the podcast. And it's been like, I'm just connecting with everybody that is in line with my passion, like
Hmm.
marketing, communication, acting, woodworking, cycling, you name it. I mean, and that's why this podcast called Hacks and Hobbies. And hobbies, and they cover our entire lifetime of trying something new out.
Ah, yes. Oh, I love that. I love the way you put that. A whole lot, because that's what a hobby, like you start something as a hobby,
Hmm.
and then if you don't like it, you stop and you try something else. And if you do like
Exactly.
it, it could
Yeah.
be the way that you save the world.
Yes.
Who knows?
Absolutely.
Like my
Exactly.
hobby used to be acting, and then it was my
Yeah.
profession. And then
Yeah.
it was the basis for the Say Things Better method of intentional communication. And
Yeah.
then I went to Washington, D.C., and spoke to people in the federal government about being intentional communicators. And maybe someday I'll be the federal government.
There you go.
Who knows?
A little close to us. All right. So some questions
Sure.
that we ask, that I ask. I always say we, as if there's a lot of people talking on this
It's you and
podcast.
all of your followers who have come to
Yes,
expect
exactly.
these questions.
There we
Yes.
go. See,
Hmm.
that's what I was looking for. So these questions that my followers, my audience looks for. What is one hobby that you wish you got into?
It's so hard to say that I
Mhm.
regret anything that I have tried, but there are some
Mhm.
things that I haven't
Mhm.
until just the last few years. So I have a little brother. I mean, he's not so little
Mhm.
anymore. He's
Yeah.
an adult. He's the director of sales and membership at the Philadelphia Cricket Club. He's like a real
Nice.
person, uh,
Mhm.
a whole guy. But when we were growing up, he was always my little brother. And he was very skilled as an athlete, and in
Mhm.
fact went to school for sports management, which is why he's at the Philadelphia Cricket Club.
Nice.
But he was the athlete growing up, and I was the artist. We were
Mhm.
both writers. So, in that way, we had crossover, but there wasn't a lot else. There was like playing with Legos, watching Saturday morning cartoons, and Saved by the Bell, and Ghost Writer on Sunday nights,
Mhm.
and writing, and our family. But he
Nice.
had his hobbies, which were the sports things,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
had mine, which were the arts things and the Barbies and the fashion and coloring and performing. And so we had very different sets of things that we
Yeah.
were really into, and we loved these things.
Mhm.
So it just never occurred to me that maybe I hadn't found my sport, that maybe sports could be for me, that some kind of
Yeah.
athletics could be for me,
Mhm.
because So funny, just in the last, like, really, it was just a few months ago, I think, or last year, I was in Dallas, and a bunch of friends and I went axe throwing.
Mm.
And it was so much fun, and I felt like, well, I need to be doing this every day. I'm gonna become a champion axe thrower, and you'll all see.
Yeah.
You know? But, like, it made me think, I've been going to batting cages, and, I don't love,
Mhm.
like, running around the bases.
Yeah.
I don't love
Fun hit
running
stuff.
at all. I would need a lot of sports bras to really enjoy running. But but I like swinging the bat and making contact.
Mhm.
I like boxing, which I
Mhm.
learned that I like boxing during some private training
Mhm.
lessons that I had had, and these things that I grew up never trying. I just wonder what would be different about my life if, going back,
Mhm.
I did have whatever that thing was that I'm enjoying now. These
Yeah.
kind of, like, I step up to the plate, it's my turn, I do my thing, and
Mhm.
then I stop. Like, maybe it's not about the contact with other
Mhm.
people or the team sport, which is interesting because the rest of my life is very team oriented, very community
Yeah.
oriented. But
Yeah.
in sports, the things that I have ended up liking as an adult are these kind of just for me things.
Yeah.
We had fun all doing them together, but when it was, it's not like there are a bunch of people throwing axes back at me when I'm
No.
throwing my axe. So I don't think I would like that. But
No.
these kinds of things, like, I think it would have been interesting to pursue. And it's not like I'm dead, I mean, I have
No.
time. I could
Absolutely.
still pursue
Absolutely.
them.
Absolutely. When you mentioned about if you had tried those sports back in the days, where your life would have been,
Yeah. I'd have been a
and
champion axe thrower.
you'd be in a totally different place.
Yeah.
And a parallel to that, that I'm remembering, there's this new show on Fox, I think, called The Orville. It's created by Seth MacFarlane of Family Guy, and
Oh,
in one
yeah.
of the episodes, they found this time capsule that was buried 400 years ago, and they're in the future. And in there, they found an iPhone,
Oh,
and this
wow.
lady, this lady had put her entire life on there with, there's text messages, there's videos and emails and everything in there. And so they started looking at the phone after they unlocked it.
It's like an
And then this
anthropologist's dream.
exactly. And then one of the actors, or one of the characters on the show, he started, because it was this lady who had her entire life history in the phone. And what's funny, they're like, I've upgraded this phone's battery so it'll last forever. I was like, can
Wow.
I have that technology now? So anyways,
Can I please
yes,
have a
I,
phone
I
battery
would
that
love
lasts forever?
that. So what he does, they have since they live on a spaceship, they have a simulator so they can go and experience different things, like they can visit Earth, or they can basically get away from being on space. So he basically places the phone in the simulator and says, can you make a simulation out of this phone, this person's life? And he basically falls in love with this girl
Oh my
from this phone
gosh.
from the past. And you're like, oh my God. And every night he's going there and he's visiting her, and she's like playing guitar. And one day what he finds out, that her boyfriend is trying to get back together with her. And he had already fallen in love, and he's like, oh my God, what can I do? I really like her and she wants just to be friends. And he tells the simulator, can you erase all instances of her boyfriend so I could be her boyfriend?
Oh my God.
Right. So then he goes
First of
back the
all, that's
next day.
creepy AF, but go
It
ahead.
is. It is, right? So he goes back because it's all fake. He goes back in there and he goes, and she's a barista, and he's like, why isn't she playing a guitar? And he's like, I would never play guitar. And then he realizes that her boyfriend was the one who pushed her to go into her passion and play the guitar, because that's the part he liked. But then it was because somebody else had suggested years
Yeah.
ago.
Oh, well, we're so suggestible. Like, you really have to mine your history, because you never
Yes.
know what that thing is that's going to ring a bell.
Exactly. So
Like,
that was super super creepy, but super like
yeah,
these are, I mean, without these milestones in our lives and all the people that we meet, we wouldn't be here. We would
yeah.
be somewhere else. It would be a parallel universe.
And with
So,
additional things, like if it had been saxophone in addition to guitar or
yeah,
something, what
exactly.
would the difference have made? Maybe you
Yeah.
connect with somebody else that you see with a saxophone on the street, and then that's a new
Mhm.
conversation, or you go over there and you just never know. It could be
Yep.
anything. Those tiny little things sometimes
Hmm.
connect us to the biggest differences.
Yep. A million different things. A million little things.
Yeah.
All right. Next question. What is your favorite movie or TV show?
Mary Poppins.
Awesome. I need to see that movie. I didn't grow up in the States, so I never got to see it. But I'm looking forward to the latest rendition of it.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite
With
superhero?
so just on Mary Poppins, the new one
Mhm.
is with Lin Manuel Miranda. So Lin Manuel Miranda was and still is. He's the creator of Hamilton, the Broadway musical that basically took over the world. And
Wow.
before that, he did In the Heights, and so he's been a prolific creator of musical theater and using rap and using different kinds of music that hadn't been brought to the theater before
Yeah.
and to tell stories that hadn't been brought to the stage before for these
Mm.
audiences. So I definitely am interested in seeing what he brings to the role that Dick Van Dyke made famous in Mary Poppins.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just love Mary Poppins because there's something so magical in every single moment. And
Mhm.
because there's this childlike suspension of disbelief, even though they are skeptical, even though they are um, these skeptical children of George Banks, they don't know
Mhm.
they don't know Mary Poppins yet. So
Yeah.
when she comes in, she gets to be the one who opens their eyes to the magic, and I want to be her so badly. So, in answer to your next question, who my favorite superhero is, it's got to still
Yeah.
be her.
Nice. Very, very cool. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Guess who? So, do you know the board game Guess Who? They're the little people that you flip up and flip down when you're guessing who the other person
Oh.
has on their card.
Oh,
Oh my
okay.
gosh, I love Guess Who, but my friends
Yeah.
play it differently. We play
Yeah.
ambiguous Guess Who. And that means, so what the board game looks like is I'll have a red board and you'll have a blue board. And we
Mhm.
have the same set of, I don't know how many people, like 30, 40 people on our boards. And each little card flips up. And so you start with all of your characters flipped up. And we have the
Okay.
same people, but they're in different positions on the red board and the blue board. So you don't know who I'm putting down when I put them down. And the
Got it.
traditional game is played by asking, does your person have a hat? Does your
Mhm.
person have blue eyes? Is your
Mhm.
person bald? Is your person a woman? And you put down, if somebody says, okay, yes, my person's a woman, then you put down all the faces of all the men and you leave
Mhm.
up the women and you keep asking identifying questions until there's only
Ah,
one person remaining. And then you guess, is your person Claire? And the person says yes. And that's the whole
nice.
game. So
It's like 20 questions.
it is like that. Yeah. But
Nice.
the traditional game is asked where you ask these questions about what somebody looks like. And so you're trying to
Um,
figure out how many ways you can identify them, whether it's racially or by
mhm.
age, gender,
Mm.
whether they wear glasses, but it's all physical. The way that I
Nice.
play it, we're making character judgments. So the questions that we ask, we're not allowed to have any kind of physically identifying characteristics mentioned, and they're still yes or no questions. So I would ask you, is your person competitive? Does your person feel a sense of fulfillment? And does your person have a greater purpose in life? Does your person prefer Superman to Batman? Would you leave your child alone in a room with your person for more than 2 minutes? Anything that you could ask that you would hear what the other person playing thinks about their character. So you're putting down, when they
Yeah.
say, yes, my person does whatever, yes, my person does have integrity, right? So you're putting people down on your board that you don't see their faces anymore.
Mhm.
if they think that their person does have integrity, you're putting people down, not who you think don't have integrity, but who you think your partner thinks won't have integrity.
Oh,
So it's a way
interesting.
for me to get to know how you see other people in the world.
That's really powerful.
It's really fun.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out because there's so many board games that I've learned about through these podcasts. I have a list going on. Like, okay, I
Do you
gotta
have
get
an
this one.
article on LinkedIn that you just keep updating?
I should have an article on there, but I haven't gotten there yet.
You should make one and then fill it with affiliate links so that you get paid if anybody ever buys a board game. That's the
Not a bad idea.
e-commerce part of my life coming out again.
Exactly.
Like, how else can you monetize?
Affiliate marketing is so powerful, and we might have to do another episode on that.
Yeah.
But where can my audience find you?
Oh, people can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there every day. I've been on LinkedIn every day since June 1st, 2017.
Nice.
And I'm mostly commenting, but I do post things once in a while. I posted something today about taxes. It's April 15th as we're recording this. So posted about taxes today, and probably won't post again for another month or so. But I'm there every day commenting, and in the comments is the best place to reach me. So if you see me comment on somebody else's thing, comment after me and start to build a relationship that way. And if you want to work with me, you can go to saythingsbetter.com.
Perfect. And I noticed that you had posted a comment an hour ago that you're going to be doing the recording with Junaid.
It was like 2 minutes before this call. I was seeing Rachel Chang go on LinkedIn Live with Katie Wallace, and they're both two really good friends of mine. So I went on there for as many minutes as I could, and I was like, gotta go. Go to record with Junaid.
I need to talk to them as well, bring them onto the podcast, because they have the Unlearn show. And
Katie,
Yeah, and that's really powerful stuff. And there's so much to talk about. It's like when you talk with people with the same mind frequency, it's like you can talk on forever. And like a lot of things that we learn, some things aren't in line with where we want to be. And that's where the unlearn factor comes in, right? Okay, how do I unlearn this thing that I want to get rid of, like being a procrastinator? How do I unlearn that? Or not getting to places on time? How do I unlearn that kind of thing? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a great show. I love on the Unlearn show, you've got Sunny Tannen and Jake Jordan and Chantel Sumas and Lacey. I love Lacey so much. And Katie Wallace, of course.
Nice. Well, Lila, thank you so much for your time and your story and your journey. This was so
thanks for asking.
Amazing. I love
listening to me do a big brain dump of my whole life.
See, you can always come back to this episode and be like, hey, what did I tell today?
Yeah, no, actually, I was thinking about that. I was thinking, this is stuff that I haven't talked about, and I've been spending so much time mining my theater experience. Yeah. What if there's stuff that I'm leaving out of my own ability to help people that I'm just not acknowledging? So I'm going to take the audio file of this, run it through Subtitle, and take the, I'll have to break it up because they have a 30-minute limit, but I'll put it through Subtitle and get the SRT, like the text format, unless you can get it.
There's another app that I use called Otter, OTTER.ai, and there's no limit. They give you 600 minutes for free.
Oh, great. That's perfect. Yeah. I don't think we've been on for quite 600 minutes yet, but we're getting there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you.
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at Junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.